Welcome back. So last class we have discussed regarding uh, AC circuits, single phase AC circuits. That is first one we have discussed regarding um, purely resistive circuit, purely resistive circuit we have discussed. Then second one we have discussed about purely inductive circuit. Purely inductive circuit. Then today we are going to discuss about purely capacitive circuit. Capacitive circuit. Okay. So purely capacitive circuit is given by. So here is the circuit diagram. Here we have given the AC input source, that is Vt is equal to Vm sin omega t, where Vt is the instantaneous voltage and Vm is the maximum peak voltage, and this is the ACC pole. Okay, so if you see this in this complete closed circuit, only we have a capacitor. Other than capacitor, we don't have any other circuit components like resistance or inductor. Okay, so that's why here we are going to treat this one as a only purely capacitive circuit. So let IT be the current flowing in this circuit at a particular instant. Then the voltage across this capacitor is given by VC. So VC is the voltage across this particular component, that is called as capacitor. Okay. Here is the equation for voltage and current in case of a purely capacitor circuit. So as we have considered that the voltage source supplied to this circuit is Vt is equal to Vm sin omega t, right? As a pure capacitor having zero resistance, thus the alternating supply applied to these plates of the capacitor will charge up the capacitor, right? So as the circuit has a zero resistance, let us consider this capacitor has zero resistance, that at an instant when you supply the voltage for this complete circuit, as applied voltage will create a, or applied voltage will charge up this capacitor, right? So if the charge on the capacitor plate at any instant, we define that as q, and the potential difference between the plates at any instant, we define that as a Vt. Then as we know that from previous classes or lower classes, that capacitance C is equal to given by q by V, right? So if you want to calculate the q in this case, q is equal to, that it becomes Vt into C, that capacitance, that is capacitance of the capacitor is C. Then if you substitute this complete value of Vt, then you will get q is equal to C Vm sin omega t, right? Then if you want to calculate the current, as we already know that current is nothing but it's a rate of change of a charge. It is a rate of flow of the charge per time, or with respect to time. So then if you substitute this q value here, what we get, so that it becomes d into cvm sin omega t. So as c is constant, vm is constant, we will take outside, then we need to differentiate only the term, that is sin omega t. Then if you differentiate the sin omega t, what we get, that is equal to c into vm, then omega cos of omega t, right? Then finally we will be remained with a term, that is it is equal to omega c vm of cos of omega t. Now in this equation, if you take this omega and c the denominator, we will get that this one as vm of cos of omega t divided by 1 by omega c, right? So as this is there in this equation, so it is equal to vm divided by 1 by omega c into cos omega t. Then I can write this one as a it is equal to Vm divided by Xc cos omega t, where this Xc is nothing but 1 by omega c. This is called as a capacitive reactance. Capacitive reactance. Nothing but the resistance offered by this capacitor at any instant with a particular frequency, where AC carries the particular frequency, omega can be written as 2 pi f, right? So as this frequency is a finite one, so this capacitor will oppose this flow of the AC in through it. So that's why that opposition offered by that capacitor is called as a reactance. So here we define this one as a XL, yeah, XC. Then if you substitute this one, as we know that according to Ohm's law, we already know this, that current is equal to V by R, where R is the resistance. Similarly, in case of this purely capacitive circuit, that IT or IM is equal to Vm divided by Xc, where Xc is a resistance or a reactance. So it can be written as Im is equal to Vm divided by Xc. So now if I replace this Vm divided by Xc as Im, so that equation of a current becomes It is equal to Im sine of omega t plus 90, where see you can write this cos of omega t can be written as sine of omega t plus 90. Then right, so if you compare both the equation of voltage and current, Vt is given by Vm of sine of omega t, and where It is equal to Im into sine of omega t plus 90. So now if you see the phase difference between these two, if you consider this one as a phase 1 phi 1, and if you consider this one as a phi 2, then the phase difference between phi 1 and phi 2 is equal to, that is phase difference is equal to 90 degrees, right? That we can write that one also as a pi by 2. So here if you see these two, as this phase in phi 2 is a leading by an angle of 90 degree, leading by an angle of 90 degree. So by this we can conclude that from the above equations it is clear that the current leads voltage by 90 degree in the purely capacitive circuit, where voltage lags behind but current will actually leads. This current will leads, right? And if you look at the waveform and phasor diagram of this purely capacitive circuit, so here this one is the waveform diagram, then this one is a phasor diagram. Okay, then if you look at this, so as our voltage equation is given by Vt is equal to Vm of sine omega t, as it is a sine function, this wave is represented about the sine wave, right? Then if you look at the current equation, that is It is equal to, we have Im of cos of omega t, where this is cos function, right? So at the time g is equal to 0, it will start with the maximum value, right? So at time t is equal to 0, voltage is a 0 value. At time t is equal to 0, this current will have a maximum value. Means at time t is equal to 0 only, current has a maximum value than voltage. That's why this current will leads by an angle of plus 90 degrees. That's why we call that one as a current leads the voltage in this capacitive circuit, right? If you see that phasor diagram here, look at this, as I have considered this one as a reference line x, that voltage as it is a sine wave, which is the initial wave only, so we'll keep this one as the reference line. Then as this current will lead by 90 degree, means it is a forward to that voltage, that's why it is 90 degree, that is plus 90 degrees. So we need to represent that current above the reference line, where it has an extra angle or extra phase difference, that is 90 degrees, right? So in this diagram also we can conclude that current leads here, voltage lags. Okay, so this is what the conclusion from the purely capacitive circuit, that in this circuit current leads the voltage by 90 degrees. Finally, as we have discussed in the previous parts of purely capacitive and purely inductive and purely resistive circuit, in this case also power factor is given by power factor is equal to cos of phi, right? Phase difference. In this case also we have a phase difference, that is pi by 2. Therefore, cos 90 is equal to cos 90 or pi by 2 is equal to 0. Therefore, the power factor in this purely capacitive circuit is also 0. So this is what all about purely capacitive circuit, purely inductive circuit, and purely capacitive circuit. Okay. Now I will introduce another concept that is called as a operator J. So here we are going to study about operator J. Okay. So this operator J means it is actually a mathematical operator we use for the calculation of some different values than real numbers, that is called as actually imaginary values. So for example, as you know about the mathematical quadratic equations, the quadratic equations are given by quadratic equations are generally given by, so if ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0, this represents about a quadratic equation. So if you want to calculate the roots of this particular quadratic equation, we get two roots of a value x, that is given by x is equal to minus b plus or minus square root of b square minus 4ac divided by 2a, right? So if you calculate these two roots, we get first one root as a x is equal to minus b plus of square root of b square minus 4ac divided by 2a, and another one root we get x is equal to minus b minus of square root b square minus 4ac divided by 2a. So these two are the roots of a quadratic equation. And now similarly, so if I give any one equation, for example, if I give one equation as x square minus 2x plus 10 is equal to 0. Then if you solve the same quadratic equation roots by using above formula, that is x equal to minus b plus or minus square root of b square minus 4ac divided by 2a, then here we get the roots of the quadratic equation are given by the roots of this quadratic equation. This equation are, so that is where x is equal to so that b is minus 2, minus of minus it becomes 2, plus or minus square root of 4 minus 40 divided by 2. Then if you solve this one, we get x is equal to 1 plus or minus square root of minus 9, right? So if you observe this one here, this somewhat this value, that is first one root is 1 plus square root of minus 9, second root is x equal to 1 minus of square root of minus 9, right? So if you see this minus 9 under root value, it is somewhat different than normal values like real values, right? So to represent this particular square root of negative numbers, we are going to adopt an operator. So I can write this root of minus 9 as root of minus 1 into root of minus so plus 9, right? I can write this one as root of minus 1 into root of 9. So this negative root of any value, for example, if I take the negative root of minus 1, is actually given by an operator that is called as a j. So the negative roots or of any number can be used to calculate by using this operator j. So here for example, this is root of minus x. If any value, if I consider x is a random value, root of minus x can be calculated as an imaginary operator into that square root of a real value of x. So this imaginary operator is written as j. So actually this operator is called as j operator. This value is always equal to root of minus 1. So any value can be multiplied with the 1. With if there is a negative sign, we can write that one as a minus 1. Then for especially to calculate the roots of these negative values, we are going to adopt this operator. The problem of giving a meaning to the square root of any negative number can be reduced by this using this operator minus 1. For convenience, root of minus 1 we write that one as j. Thus here if you calculate this square root of minus 9 now, square root of minus 9, it becomes plus or minus 3 into j, because as we know that the root of minus 9 is plus or minus 3. So because of its minus 1, so I can write this one as a minus 1 into root 9, that becomes, as minus 1 is a j operator, this is becomes plus or minus 3, right? Similarly here in this particular case, we call this minus 3 plus or minus 3j or 3j plus 3j or minus 3j. We call these two numbers as a imaginary numbers. Imaginary numbers, because they both have an imaginary operator. And is a real multiple. Actually, it's a real multiple of a j, because 3 is a real number here. It is a multiple of j. It becomes completely an imaginary number. Right? The quantity j, although an imaginary quantity, it is used to introduce as a real operation. So we use this operator in our real calculations. Right? That's why it is called as an operator. So here, any complex number can be represented as that is, for example, a plus jb. So this is called as a complex number, right? So this is called as a complex number. In this, we have two parts. That is, one is this one is a real part, and this one is an imaginary part. Because it has an imaginary operator, this is called as imaginary part. So always this j operator can be calculated as. So since we know that j is equal to square root of minus 1, right? Similarly, if you take j into j, then that becomes square root of minus 1 into square root of minus 1. It becomes minus 1 only. So therefore, j square is equal to actually minus 1 term. Then similarly, if you calculate j cube value, then you get that is a minus 1 into j operator, right? Because it's a j square into j. So j square is minus 1 into j. It will become minus j. Then similarly, if you calculate this one as a j4, j power 4 is equal to minus 1 into minus 1, because minus j square into j square, that becomes 1 only. So you will get only real part after the fourth power. Right. Similarly, we can write 1 by j. These are the properties of j operator. So 1 by j equal to, that is, we can write this one as j divided by j square. Then j square, we already know that minus 1. So it becomes j divided by minus 1. So it becomes 1 by j value becomes minus j. And so on, we can calculate all other properties of this j operator. This j operator, as we use mathematics, we almost use in place of j we have use there is I, right? This is an imaginary, so I we call as imaginary. A plus ib we write, right? So I is nothing but here imaginary only, because of we are studying in electrical circuit equations. So here if I use I only, sometimes it will get confused with an I current also. So that's why we are, to avoid the confusion between current and imaginary value, we are going to represent this one in the form of a j, right? So it is similar, but it is the same thing of a I, right? And the magnitude of any complex number can be calculated as, so if this is I plus jb, then we calculate the magnitude of this complex number. Magnitude of complex number as it is a square root of sum of the squares of their individual values. That is nothing but a square of a imaginary number and a square of a that is real number. So this is called as a magnitude of this complex number. If I represent this complex number as z, so this is called as a magnitude of a z complex number. And now we are going to study about a Argand diagram. Argand diagram. Okay. So I will explain this Argand diagram only for the concept which we are going to use in further electrical circuits. Okay, AC circuits. Here, all real numbers can be represented as points on a line. So as we know that all real numbers can be represented on a number line, right? So if I take this one as a 0 value here, to the right of the origin, so we represent all positive values. So this is 1, 2, then 3, so on. So similarly, and the negative numbers are always represented to the left of this origin. So that is -1, -2, -3, so on. So any real value, whether it is a negative or positive value, can be expressed on a real number line. For the representation of imaginary numbers, however, we turn to the interpretation of j as an operator. So we use to represent any negative or imaginary values by using this j operator. So we can convert an imaginary number into a real number by using of this operator j, right? So if I multiply 1 with the j, it becomes 1 with the j, this becomes j only. Then if I multiply once again j with this one, I will get -1. So similarly, I can convert any imaginary number into a real number by using this j operator. Okay. Thus here we can represent this imaginary number and complex numbers in a complex plane. So that is called as a plane where it includes both the imaginary axis and real axis. This is what the representation of any complex number z equal to a plus ib in the form of a coordination system. So here, as we have created or we have considered this x-axis as a real axis and y-axis as an imaginary axis. So imaginary axis, it only contains all the imaginary values which are belonging to this imaginary part ib. B is the value that is containing in along y-axis. So here a is a real axis value, so we can represent along x-axis anywhere on this axis real number value, right? So this is what the representation of a complex number on a complex plane. Here in this y-axis is considered as an imaginary number, because in any coordinate system for a real values, we are going to consider both as a x and y planes as both. Here we consider this one is also real value and x is also a real axis. But in case of a complex plane, or to represent the complex numbers, we are going to represent both values, real and imaginary values, by considering their respective axes as shown in this figure. And it's a diagram on which both real and imaginary numbers are represented. So that is called as a Argand diagram. Argand diagram. Because this y-axis always contains with j operator, it includes only imaginary values. So if you represent any complex number both on real and imaginary axis, so this diagram is called as a Argand diagram. So we'll see some of the diagrams on the properties of this Argand diagram. Here you can see that z is a complex number which contains x as a real number and y as an imaginary number. So this y is represented at a positive y-axis. If it's a positive, we represent it on a positive axis or positive imaginary axis, and x is a real value. So here we are going to represent x, here we are going to represent y. So angle made by this imaginary part and the real part is given by angle that is phi, right? So here this is completely about imaginary value, and this is what completely about complex that is nothing but a real value, right? And similarly, even in fact it has a negative imaginary values, means that is negative imaginary axis, then we can represent like this. So any complex number that can move from real to imaginary value. So only the way that real values can be converted into imaginary values, real values can be converted into imaginary values by multiplying j, right? So if this x is a real value, then if I want to convert this one into imaginary value, just multiply this one with the j operator, it becomes an imaginary value. So see here, as this axis is if you consider this real axis as a reference line, right? This is reference line x-axis. Then if you multiply any value with the j operator, it automatically goes to the imaginary value. Means this complete operator or a vector will move from imaginary axis to real axis to imaginary axis. So automatically this j operator is going to turn every value by 90 degrees. So 90 degrees. So this j operator will give the rotation about 90 degree. That will see what happens if you multiply j once or twice, thrice, like this on a Argand diagram. Okay. If you look at this Argand diagram, this is what my Argand diagram is. So here it is completely, I will consider this one as a real axis, and this one is a y axis. This one is imaginary axis. Okay. Now, so if I take any complex number with an it is z is equal to a plus ib. If I were to take, so if you want to convert this imaginary into real into imaginary, so see, as this b is always already a 90 degree with this B. So here I will represent IB, right? So this or GB. I will write this as J. So as it is already 90 degree with respect to real axis, then if you multiply this J into B with an J operator, it once again it becomes a Bj square, where J square is nothing but -1, so it becomes minus J. So automatically that imaginary values can be converted into real by, or real values to imaginary values by multiplying the J operator. So if you multiply, you can see here, if you multiply once J, it will be 90 degree rotation. It will be 90 degree rotation. Then once again, if you multiply that J with another one J square, then it will automatically convert into a -1, where it comes to the negative real axis, right? So this is a negative real axis by 180 degree. Then if you once again multiply that one with the J operator, it becomes J cube. Then it converts again plus 90 degree. Then with respect to the real axis origin or a reference line, it will convert into 270 degree rotation. Then again, once again if you want to multiply with J, it will convert again to the same value. As we have already seen that J is my root of -1, then J square is -1, so J cube is minus J, and where J power 4 is thing, but it's a +1. So to have a complete one full rotation, you need to multiply J by 4 times, right? So this is what the conversion of imaginary to real, real to imaginary. And moreover, this is especially about to represent any electrical quantities such as capacitive reactance and inductive reactance are represented based on this J operator, because they may sometimes they may get real values, sometimes they may get imaginary values. So for example, for the sake of next reference, we are going to use that capacitive reactance. As capacitive reactance is given by reactance, that is Xc is equal to, we represent in the form of J operator, that is 1 by J of omega C. So it will keep us to conversion from any real to imaginary or imaginary to real by that particular condition on which it is we are working, like a series or parallel. So depending on the condition, so it will help us to recognize or analyze about that particular property of that circuit. Similarly, that inductive reactance is given by that XL is equal to J of omega L. So once again the same, like in terms of, in case of capacitive reactance, here J will also help us to have an rotation, how much it is rotated in case of an inductor, or how much it is rotated in case of a capacitor, as we have already seen about the phase difference between different quantities, such as voltage and current in case of capacitive and inductive circuits, right? Similarly, as if you take the reference of resistance as a reference, there is no phase difference in purely resistive circuits. So if any circuit, if it dominates in capacitive way or purely capacitive way, so even if there is an inductor, if the capacitor is dominating, then automatically it will convert into a capacitive circuit. So at that time, what will be the phase difference, and which quantity will vary with voltage or current? If you compare voltage and current, moreover, voltage and current are the two quantities where we are going to compare which one is leading, which one is lagging. So in that case, this J operator will help a lot. So that we are going to use this J operator as a tool in our derivation part of this series circuit and parallel circuit of this AC circuits. Okay. So as of now, so tomorrow, next class, we are going to discuss about AC circuit with the resistance, capacitance, and inductance in a series. So that is called as series AC circuits, that we are going to start in the next class. So before concluding this chapter or this class, I am going to give two assignments based on this whatever I have taught today. So just first question is define a reactance, and at this in this question only, define capacitive reactance and second one is inductive reactance. Okay, so these two are the questions you need to solve or you need to submit as assignment in the Google Classroom. Then second question is define G operator. Define G operator and represent a complex number uh, 6 plus J4 on Argand diagram and calculate the magnitude of complex number. Calculate the magnitude of 6 plus J4 complex number.